to go. Okay, sorry, Christy, go ahead.
Yep. The Board of Certified Advanced Statisticians meeting is convening at 9:08 a.m. on June 14th, 2021 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon, and via telephone conference call. I will now call roll. Christy Knapp, here. Mary Nelson.
Mary, you're on mute.
I'm talking in a second.
Yes.
Was that Mary Nelson?
Yes.
Janet Paquette? Here. Mark Davis?
Here.
Rebecca Covey? Here. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. For the record, public members calling into the public phone lines are asked to email April Fleming at april.fleming@chsa.or.us. Please provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public and interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is called to order. Do we need to have some people mute?
That would probably
be a lot of background noise.
Yes, there's a lot of background noise. It sounds like somebody's children are close by.
First item of business is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Nielsen. I wish to make a statement, and then I wish to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Go ahead.
I wish to publicly declare for the record I own an advanced aesthetic school licensed by the Higher Education Coordinating Commission as a private career school. Although no one is required to attend my school, I may have the opportunity to financially benefit from a person who enrolls in my school. I also wish to state for the record that I have written a textbook that was independently selected by the American Board of Laser Surgery, the organization that administers the Oregon State Board exam for advanced estheticians, to become licensed certified advanced estheticians as a recommended resource for study for the exam. 3 additional resources for the exam were also independently selected by the American Board of Laser Surgery for the exam. If someone opts to use the book I have written as a resource for the exam, I received $227.86 for royalties on the sale of this book in Q4 of 2020. I received $85.66 in Q1 of 2021. And now I make a motion to approve the minutes, or to approve the agenda of the meeting.
Do we have a second?
Kathy, I second the motion.
Thank you. A motion's been made. I'll call the roll. Christy Knapp. A. Mary Nielsen.
Yes.
Janet Paquette. Janet Paquette to approve the agenda.
Jan, if you muted yourself, you're muted because we can't hear you. Jan, are you still on there?
Send her text.
I'll continue with the roll and then we'll circle back to Jan. Mark Davis?
Here. And yes, I agree with the agenda.
Okay, Rebecca Covey? Aye. And Janet Paquette? Did I hear Jan?
We're trying to contact her again. This is Bob.
We're going to try to connect her again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Dan.
Yeah, this is Jan.
Hi. I'm sorry,
Hi.
I hope this doesn't keep happening, but it's disconnecting me. I'm out at the beach. Might be a mistake.
Jan, we have an approval of the agenda and a second, and we were calling to vote on the approval.
Yes,
I approve the agenda. Thank you very much. Now we'll segue to the director report.
all right.
All right, so this is Sylvie. Just a couple of quick things. Genetic counselors that legislation has passed, and so genetic counselors will be a new program that's going to be coming to our office. Their licensing will start January 1 of 22, so that will get us up to 17 boards and programs versus 16 that we're currently at. We're going to have some other legislative stuff that Sammy will go into more detail a little bit later on the agenda. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we are right at quorum. We do have 4 vacant positions. However, it looks like the governor's office we're waiting on paperwork for the governor's office to appoint a Kimberly candidate. She will take the position of either a physician assistant, or a nurse practitioner. I'm not quite sure what her profession is. But we do still have 2 vacant public member positions and a vacant certified advanced esthetician position. So just letting you know, update on that. So hopefully Kimberly will get appointed by the governor's office soon. And that'll give us a little cushion because, again, we're right at quorum. So if we lose Jan again, we have to stop until she gets back on. So let's get into any questions on either one of those. Okay. Let's get into the licensing and statistical reports. Your first slide shows the licenses issued broken out by quarter. Again, our quarter is a little bit weird. So on the bottom where it says 2021, quarter 3 is actually January, February, and March. And quarter 4 is April, May, and June. So you can see there in quarter 3, we issued 24 licenses, renewed 22. And fourth quarter, 18 licenses and renewed 23. Next slide, and I hope Nathan is listening, but I do believe this is missing some information. So this is the examinations, and you can see quarter 4 is blank. However, most likely there's people that are in there if we issued 18 licenses in quarter 4. So one would assume there's almost 18 that would have passed the exam at some point in there. So I think that those where it's blank, I don't know the pass-fail rate, but I would assume those 18 people are in there. So Nathan, will you make sure and look at that, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Nathan. And then the next slide just shows your long-term trend, and this is a quarterly average. So obviously the old 2 licenses that dropped off at that quarter 3, which would have been January of 2018, which is when the normal licenses went into effect, but steadily growing over time. The next slide shows active licenses broken out by age and gender. Obviously a female-dominated field, however, individuals do not have to enter in their genders, which is why you have that 3rd gender. But as of May 21st, there was 447 active licenses. And the next slide shows your financials. So for the last 3 years, again, our weird fiscal years, and so it shows your running cash balance. So as of May 25th, your cash balance was $116,157. So you're bringing in more revenue than you are expenditures, which is great. And then down on the bottom, the shared assessment and the small board assessment, those are the percentages that you guys pay, that you meaning this board and licensees. And that will change come July 1st of 22 due to genetic counselors coming on. So that's why we redo them every year based because the office keeps changing and has not stayed the same for as long as I've been here. So we keep redoing the assessments. Any questions on any of that stuff that I can answer for anyone?
Sylvie,
Yes.
I sent you a screenshot of the correct numbers for that exam. By email.
So for the examinations for 2021 quarter 4, there was 35 passed, 6 fails. Again, this is not number of people, it's number of the times the exam was taken. So that's a total of 41 times the exam was taken in quarter 4 with an 85% pass rate.
Great. This is Nielsen. I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. Could we, at one point, we were talking about what would be a reasonable cushion that we should have in our sort of like our pot of money in case there was some type of lawsuit? Could we get some type of number to know where we are financially in terms of that situation?
Yeah, most likely, there's a couple of things that are going to occur that's going to affect your expenses. Here shortly. So, but most likely, I would say around 250 to 300,000. It all depends on what kind of suit it is. So if it's something where somebody has gotten physically damaged and we end up having to take it all the way to a hearing, that's going to get quite spendy. But one thing that this board and the Board of Cosmetology are going to incur is some legal fees. So with the new bill passing, obviously you guys are going to have to rewrite all your rules because the scope of practice has changed. And so when that occurs, it's usually when DOJ gets involved and makes sure that the rules are in alignment with what the bill says and also what the legislative intent is with the passage of the bill. So we'll know a whole lot more on how those expenses affect you guys once we start getting into that rule writing and have Heather start getting involved in the rules. Because you know how much we spent trying to differentiate the old rules with the FDA device and stuff. So hopefully it won't be nearly as expensive, but that will be something that's going to come along that's going to affect your guys' expenses.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, let's move on to the regulatory report. Bob.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Bob Bothwell for the record. So currently on the regulatory report, we're showing 2 bienniums, the current biennium and the last biennium. In the last biennium, I have 4 open cases with a total of 14 closed. Currently, we have 4 open cases in the 1921 biennium, and one of those are closed. As you can see in the report, that the vast majority of our complaints are unlicensed type complaints. Any questions, concerns?
Thank you.
This is Christy Knapp. What?
This is Christy Knapp. I just have one quick question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any complaint that's apparent that we need to take into account for the new laws, I guess? That would be my question. Like, is something coming up regularly that we would want our, either a rules advisory committee or something to, just so that we can like shore up safety and things like that? If it's unlicensed, that's a different situation. I was just wondering if there was a trend or something coming up as obvious in any of your cases.
As far as laser services go, each of the bienniums that I'm showing, 15, 17, 17, 19, and 19, 21, one a year that we're receiving. And then services provided, that's pretty broad. We've had 6 in the last biennium and 4 this current biennium, and that could be the fact that they had an advanced aesthetic service or provider's license, and the violation may have actually occurred under their cosmetology, their aesthetics license. That's the best answer I have for that. For the services provided, and again, 10 to 1, the biggest problem are licensing concerns.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any questions for Bob? All right, Sammy, are you still on there?
Are you looking for me? Was that a Jan?
Oh, sorry, Jan. No, I was looking for Sammy. We're on the policy. You're fine.
Yeah, I just came.
Sylvie, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can everybody else hear you?
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So I updated the legislative summary this morning. Nothing changed, House Bill 2970, except it has been signed by the Speaker of the House. So we're waiting for the Senate President to sign, and then hopefully the Governor. And once the Governor signs, that bill becomes immediately effective. So we want to hit the ground running with, starting the Rules Advisory Committee. Kind of several things need to happen, and I'm going to kind of lay that out now. So what your board will need to do is determine other devices in your scope of practice that fit, and you could do it by rule. And then you have to do that in collaboration with the Board of Cosmetology. And then it's split. The Board of Cosmetology has to do it with you on their devices. So we're going to have collaborative meetings, possibly, and then the other thing you guys have to do is make rules around FDA, being required to use FDA devices and what that looks like. So those are kind of the 2 to 3 big things you have to do. What we'd like to do today is determine when you can meet in the next couple weeks to approve a rule schedule and give us some guidance on the type of membership you'd like to see on at least your part of the committee, noting that it's probably going to be in this same format. Hopefully you'll see me on screen. I'm having a lot of difficulty with all of this. So I'm going to lay out some dates, and then maybe we can circle back under other board business, so this gives you time to kind of think about it. So we've got June 28th, 7/12, and 7/14. And we need to have these rules in place really by Jan 1, 2022. And so we're also going to have to look at on Corinthea's end, is education, is all the devices still covered? Is the correct information out on the curriculum for the new FDA requirements that you guys put in place? And those types of things. So it could be.
Sammy, this is Rebecca Covey. I had a question. When do those rules have to be in place by? I didn't hear that.
Sammy, are you still there? We may have lost her. She's been having difficulties all morning. Rebecca, the goal is to have them effective Jan 1. So there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be done. So obviously Sammy is going to get a group together. Basically based on some of your guys' input, she's going to need to work on rules, and then Cerinthia is going to also need to work on the curriculum. So both those things will have to be worked on at the same time, and so that's what Sammy was trying to explain. Does anybody have any more questions on 2970? Okay, well, I'll keep going on Sammy's behalf since I think we lost her. In your materials, there's a list of all the bills that are affecting us. I don't necessarily need to go through all of them. 2970 is going to be the most important one to you guys specifically. 2619 is genetic counselors. That's the one that I talked about a little bit about before. The housekeeping bill, so that's Senate Bill 64, that one will kind of affect you guys a little bit on some of your older cases. So it deals with, it makes a clear cutoff of if a complaint was received on or after a certain date on how to treat that complaint versus if it was received prior to that date. It was just some housekeeping stuff on what is and is not disclosable. Senate Bill 358 does some changes to the Behavior Analyst Regulatory Board, and Senate Bill 820 does some changes to the Sexual Offense Specific Treatment Board. And then also in your packet is the actual enrolled bill. So it's a copy of House Bill 2970. There's several pieces to that bill. I do believe Section 8 is where it switches to residential care, which that starts on page 5, so that's obviously not you guys. So you guys, it only affects page 1 through 5 will affect the cosmetology and advanced aesthetics. Then it switches to residential care, then it talks about dental clinics, which obviously has absolutely nothing to do with you. And then, like Sammy said, we're waiting on the governor to sign it, and once the governor signs it, it goes into effect. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Sorry, guys. I got dog disconnected, but I'm back.
So Sammy's, anything else you wanted to add? What?
I'm happy to answer any questions offline if you can send them during the interim. Just give me an email or a call.
Okay, so then let's go on, move on. This is Sylvia again. COVID-19. So the latest is that there's a group that's working together on some guidelines for state offices reopening. The goal is to have all state offices reopened and back to normal-ish, as normal as it's going to be, starting September 1. So currently we are open only by appointment only. You cannot just walk in and do anything. You have to have an appointment. So hopefully September 1 that will change where our doors are open and people can walk in at whenever they need to, which will also allow us to start testing a lot more individuals for the exams instead of having to have it scheduled and limit how many people we can test. So that's the current goal for us reopening and allowing individuals to come in and test and to hopefully lower the time frame from how long it's going for individuals who graduate to where they're able to take the exam.
Hey Sylvie, this is Davis.
Yes.
This is slightly unrelated, but I'm just interested. Is this true for all government agencies? Everyone's trying to do that by September?
Correct.
Or do you know?
Yeah. Correct. No, that's correct. So the governor is currently, I mean, it may change. You never know. So part of her directives is for the state agencies to be prepared to open September 1. And it may change due to some of her goals for the majority of Oregonians being vaccinated. So that could have an effect. But there's a lot of things that state agencies need to do to prepare for the, because a lot of things are changing. There's a goal of continuing to have people work from home as much as possible, limit the number of staff that are actually in the building. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done big picture, because you got to remember we're all state of Oregon employees, and so they come out with policies that are statewide. And I think that's why the offices are opening a little bit slower than the rest of the state of Oregon is, regardless of the vaccination rates.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Does anybody else have any questions about the COVID stuff? Alrighty, you guys are an easy group. Okay, Bob, is there anybody on the phone?
Hi, good morning. This is Bob Bothwell at Health Licensing. Is there anybody on the public phone that would like to make a comment today? Not hearing anybody.
All right, well, we'll skip the public interested parties feedback then and move on to item number 5. So, Sammy needs you guys to be able to pick a date, and you don't have to do it right now. Some of you may need to be able to look at calendars or whatever. So I think the best thing is to have April send you an email real quick to try and figure out which of those days that Sammy said that would be best for you guys, where we can get all of you, because you're right at quorum. And then Paige is on here listening too, and she can try and touch base with the governor's office to see if we can get the new board member up, and she'd have to get orientation and then maybe be able to participate. She'd have to get a little up to speed. But Sammy picked out June 28th, July 12th, and July 14th. So expect an email from April to try and figure out which one of those days will start or work for you guys, all of you guys. And then that will be a short, very specific meeting that will be talking about the rule schedule, and Sammy will have all that ready for you. And then also the people who you would like, the type of people, not the individual people, but the type of people that you would like on the Rules Advisory Committee. So for instance, do you want 3 licensed advanced estheticians, 1 position, 1, I don't know, but that's what I mean, as in the type of position versus the actual people who are on the board, the Rules Advisory Committee. And then I know Dave or somebody in his office needs to have input, and so does the cosmetology board, because everything has to be in collaboration. So I didn't know, April, make sure that you include Dave on that email, because if Dave can't attend those Rules Advisory Committees, he might be able to find somebody in his office who could also participate to help with any questions regarding the lasers and stuff like that. But does anybody have questions on that?
This is David. I just want to let you know, I'll be on vacation from June 23rd to July 2nd. So that'll count me out of that.
So the 28th does not work.
Right.
So unless we can get, what's her name? I already forgot her name. Kimberly. So Paige will touch base with the governor's office to see where we're at on Kimberly. It's 2 weeks away. I don't know if it'll occur by then. But if it does not occur, then we can't meet because Mark will be on vacation. So that, and we're right at quorum. The issue is the quorum thing. So more to come.
This is Kathy, Rebecca.
Yeah.
So one of the dates that was an option was July the 12th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so sounds like he'll be back July 2nd.
Correct.
So could we all meet July 12th?
This is Nielsen. I am on vacation on the 12th, but I'm back on the 14th.
Yeah, so instead of, let's do this. let's have Paige reach out to the governor's office first to see if she can find out any information, and she'll let the governor's office know that we're right at quorum and we're having issues, and to see if they can like maybe expedite the appointment of Kimberly. That would allow us a little bit of leeway. And then depending on what the response is from the governor's office, April then will then email out to everybody and try and see if it sounds like the 14th, if Kimberly does not get appointed. So we'll kind of do it in a stepping process.
This is David. So
Yeah.
the 12th, I'm looking at my 12th is completely full of like doctor's appointments and trainings with reps, and I'm available the following Monday on the 19th. So.
Okay. All right, we'll let Paige and Sammy and April try and figure out the Kimberly situation, and then reach out to you guys and try and figure out a board meeting date. Because when you guys meet is all reflective of how fast Sammy can get her rules stuff done. So we'll figure it out, but there's no need for us to sit here and try and pencil it out right at the moment.
So this is Rebecca Cuddy. I have a question. So as part of the rules advisory that you're putting together, it sounds like they're going to be directly putting certain devices in instead of a broader spectrum of the different devices that we have listed in here. Is that correct? They're going to be ruling on different devices? Or ruling on different devices?
It's going to be basically exactly out of the bill, so out of the House Bill 2970.
Right.
So there's
7's going to have where it lists the skin rejuvenation, photo rejuvenation, body contouring, and on. Those, they won't be assigning devices to those, will they?
That kind of depends on the group, but I certainly doubt it. And you want to try and keep it broad without like naming a specific thing, but again, this is an advisory group, so they're going to come up with a draft rule, draft, and that goes before the board. The board, you guys all get to ultimately make the final decision in conjunction with Board of Cosmetology. So this is more helping Sammy get a draft going. Sammy knows to follow what the House bill says, and also knows the intent to not get down in the weeds and start naming specific individual devices because they change constantly.
Correct. Okay.
Nielsen, this is Nielsen. I interpret it to mean, Rebecca, things like there would be specific devices outlined such as galvanic current or microcurrent or mechanical exfoliation such as microdermabrasion would be in the scope of practice of the standard aesthetics without naming the specific company or device, but it would definitely give the technology to that specific scope of practice. If that makes sense.
Yes.
But that's just me, that's not, right, the Rules Advisory Committee will come up with their thing, but that's what I interpret it.
Yeah, this is Sylvie, and Sammy will have to do both advanced aesthetics and cosmetology at the same time because it changes both of your guys' statutes and rule, and so she'll be working on both groups at the same time.
Yes, I will. And me and Heather really, and Cody, really wrote, helped to make this verbiage so it will work for everybody. By the way, you're making me sound pretty amazing, Cody. Thank you.
So any more questions from anyone? Okay, well, you will be hearing from us soon regarding setting up a new meeting. We'll do a little of our own homework first, but if nobody has is there any other board business that anybody wants to talk about? Well, that wasn't quite the short meeting. Christy, you have a script in order to adjourn.
Yes. The Board of Certified Advanced Estheticians meeting is adjourned at 9:44 a.m.